naturopath coaches, and of course, Dr. Ravi will be on every month as usual. I am looking forward to sharing my 30 years of experience with my listeners so we can enjoy this life journey together.
Visit Joanne's Nutrition World in the Crass Square, formerly known as the Arcade Building, located at US 1 and Orange Avenue, across from Fort Pierce City Hall. Open Monday through Friday from 10 to 4, Saturdays 10 to 3. Taking appointments for the Wellness Center online at joannesnutritionworld.com or call 772-464-3598.
Hey, it's Dr. Ravi at Tradition Family Chiropractic. We are dedicated to serving you and your family with integrity, compassion, and innovative care through the most advanced chiropractic care ever in chiropractic history, encouraging your health and your family's health to its maximum potential on a regular basis. Call us today at 772-345-0060 or schedule online at traditionhealth.com for your free consultation.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Good morning. I can't tell you what day it is, but it's time for a world of nutrition with Joanne Seeger. What day is this?
Is this the best you got, kiddo? Like, really? Is
Hey,
this all you got for
I'm
me?
done. Basketball season's over.
All right. You want me to take over from here?
Might as
Yeah.
well.
All right. Hey, everyone. Happy Thursday. Yes. Cliff is in here. You can tell Greg is in the booth, but he always makes me laugh. So hopefully I can keep my composure. All right. I am blessed again with Becca Ironside right by my side. So she's here. So I definitely, everyone that heard her 2 weeks ago, she is physical therapist that specializes in pelvic floor. And boy, do we have a topic today. I really going to keep everyone in suspense because we have to do the breath work because I had such an exciting week. I am officially a grandmother. Yes, Shelby and Jonathan had a beautiful baby girl after the most amazing home birth Saturday morning, and her name is Luna. And what I think is so funny,
cool.
so obviously Luna Moon, and she was born exactly at sunrise.
Are you serious?
Yeah, the exact minute of sunrise is when she chose to come, and it was so beautiful because she did it in my master bath, and the sun was coming through the windows, and it had been, she handled labor so beautifully, just literally, I kept looking like, is she gonna make a noise now? But she just really did the breath work and birthed a baby, and Abundant Birth Life's birthing center. Oh, I'm tongue tied. They were really amazing midwives, and they were there throughout all of it, and just incredible women. So if you need that info, definitely call me and I will hook you up with them. Incredible birth center. So you can choose home birth or birth center. Long story short, amazing, but I'm still like a little bit loopy. So,
How long did all this take?
Well, for active labor, she went into active labor without any of us knowing it. She watched Law and Order and just went through all the contractions, and just it was the most beautiful, touching thing. As long as she put her hand on my son's arm, like she didn't even clench it, just put it there and did her breath work and watched about 23 episodes, no joke. She got to real high active labor, and then about a good 3 hours where, you move positions, you go from the tub into the bed and walk around a little bit, but never a moan or a sound. It was incredible. It was incredible. I was like, oh, you got this, girl. But yeah,
Just take her out to Port St. Lucie High and have her run a couple miles.
Right. Well, it's funny. That's how they used to do it.
No.
Well,
I
not
was
run,
just joking.
but not run. They would always say, walk the steps, walk and move. And Shelby wasn't doing that. And I was a little concerned, like thinking, how is she going to progress? but really the body does it. And she just did it, just laying down, doing what was safe and comfortable for her. And she wasn't exhausted because she wasn't doing that old school theory of just walking and stepping. Remember, like how they would always say that. But we have so much info to cover, so I got to get right into it. So let's do the breath work. Now, Greg, you have to count to 5. Can you do that for me this morning?
Not today.
So if there's any newbies listening, welcome to the show. So excited that you're here with us this morning. We're just going to do a deep exhale out so we can get focused, center our minds, get our blood pressure all regularized. Okay. And we're going to inhale for our nose for 5, hold for 5, and out for 5. And Greg, we're just going to do it one time. You got this? All right. Everyone exhale out. Okay. In for 5.
2, 3, 4, 5.
I knew it. I knew it. You know what, everyone? I love Becca so much. We're going to get right into it, but do your breath work while you're listening. You know, he's Mr. Comedian. Good morning, Becca. How are you?
I'm very well.
I'm
Good
trying to look at the
morning.
Zoom camera, but I can see your beautiful face on the camera, so I don't have to turn to you and be awkward for the mic. So tell me about your day and how's it going, and maybe you can tell our listeners all about you and just who Becca is in case they missed the first time.
Sure thing. I'm Becca Ironside, and I'm a physical therapist who's worked for 23 years in all facets of physical therapy, but I specialized 7 years ago in the pelvic floor. So those are the regions of your undercarriage, let's call it that. And so what's interesting is a lot of women are well aware of their pelvic floors because of what we go through in terms of childbirth, menstruation, etc. But men have pelvic floors, and a lot of them are not aware of what those muscles control or do for men. And so we're here to talk about that today, the
That's
power of the
right.
pelvic floor and what it can do. So it is raining men. Hallelujah.
I love it. So if I have females listening, but your male and significant other is close by, you might want him to listen to this because we are having a serious and very, I don't know what the word for it is, a very serious conversation about the male pelvic floor. And I definitely don't think it's discussed enough. And Becca, you have a commercial on YouTube, is it? How do they access that commercial? Can you start with all that information and tell everyone, in case they can't catch the whole show, how they learn? Because it is a subject that is not talked about often enough. Males have a pelvic floor, and there's some serious issues that can happen there that really affect their life, and it's not usually wanting to be discussed. So Becca, give them some info so they can reach out to you after the show if they need to discuss this further.
Sure, by all means. I've been treating men for quite some time, but I also treat men via telehealth. So some of these visits are live, and some of these visits are a man behind a computer screen. And the ground that can be covered by this is we can discuss any issues of urinary leakage, dribbling, incontinence. We can discuss erectile dysfunction or pain with arousal. We can discuss testicular pain and discomfort. We can discuss rectal spasms, constipation, and any bowel concerns. So those are the 3 things that your undercarriage is controlling: urination, sex, bowel movements. If you're interested in a telehealth visit with me, you can get on connectpt.org. Scroll down and you'll see our services. And basically what you'd want to do is click and email them that you want a wellness visit with me. Alternately, you could call the phone number 609-584-4770. That is Connect Physical Therapy. I've worked for them for years, and this would be telehealth services. I have found that men do a lot better behind a computer screen. They have a great difficulty discussing these things in person. And so the
It's a
computer,
guy thing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
It is. And honestly, speaking of a guy thing, I have so many referrals from actually women talking to their spouses, partners, etc., and saying, I know that something's wrong, but it's often not the man himself that's reaching out to us. It's the
Right.
woman in his life.
Right.
So I would love for women to be having these open, frank conversations with their men. And I would love for the men also to know there's
Yeah.
a sounding board for this. You
And
know,
there needs to be conversations, because I think the females are also very concerned about bringing up their pelvic floors and their issues, and having a open conversation about it. And then the males are also retreating and not really expressing what's happening. Whether it be just restroom things, it's not always about, sex and libido. It's also, like you mentioned, Becca, the dribbling, not full urine flow. And sometimes the urologist visit doesn't get them what they need,
right. And
So-
honestly, I treat so many men with either enlarged prostates, very common, so common, and also prostate cancer. And so they will go to their urologists and they'll get the medical information that they need, but what they won't get is the lifestyle modifications that they might need to do. So if you have an enlarged prostate, you might feel like you're sitting on a golf ball, or you might need to pee what feels like hundreds of times at night or during the day.
Yep, that's frustrating.
It's incredibly frustrating. So your urologist, they have a very important role. They're probably going to put you on a medication like Flomax, and that's going to help. But you might, as the individual, say, well, what does this mean for me? I have an enlarged prostate. What does this mean for my future? What can I do? These are the questions that we can answer one-on-one via telehealth. And it's very, very nice for men to have a vulnerable and safe space for them to ask these very personal questions that they might not ask someone in a medical facility with a white coat.
Right.
I got a question about if you want to just say sexual health. How much does stress, and especially since the pandemic, how much does that play in all of this?
I love this question. I'm actually very happy that you're here. You're really adding to this conversation. I love this. Okay, so what needs to happen for sexual arousal is you need a good nervous system, a calm nervous system. It's going to send waves into the pelvis, right? And so what then happens is blood fills the penis and the testicles, and then it needs to remain there for a rigid erection, and it needs to stay there until climax. So what has happened with the pandemic is twofold. So you've got people with very high nervous systems that they cannot bring down. They simply can't, because we're also concerned with other things. And if you think about it, if you were out in the wild and there was a famine, your sex drive would lower, because from an evolutionary standpoint, it's not a good time to conceive a baby. How are you going to feed that baby? So your nervous system is so smart and your brain is so smart that it's going to take away the urge for sex. Sex is a pleasant little extra when times are good. When times are not good, the sex drive itself will plummet. Hormones themselves will plummet.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So I guess to
I never
answer your
thought about it
question,
that way.
stress really hurts not only your body, but it also hurts the bedroom activities, which is obvious. I mean, they say all the time, the females always use that excuse that see in the movies. It's just such a stressful day, not in the mood, And so with men, I mean, they have that too. So
I've got a headache.
Yep. Yeah. So stress really. Now, Becca, I know you're a physical therapist, but do you get into that with the therapy and lifestyle changes that you offer in your visits, as far as like stress control and breath work? What type of therapies do you suggest?
When I treat a man with an overactive nervous system, what I start with is a lot of oscillations of the spine, which I do. So that would be hands-on. However, via telehealth, what's a really nice place to start is I'll introduce myself, and then I'll ask a man some specific questions about his health, because just saying to somebody, tell me everything that's wrong with your pelvis, is way too open-ended. So I find directed questions will calm the other person and allow them to open fully. So we could even start by saying, let's not talk about sex. Let's talk about peeing. Are you dribbling? Are you constipated? Let's talk about constipation first. And then towards the middle of the session where men are getting more comfortable, that's when the information will come out and men will say, my erections are not the same, or I don't wake up with an erection anymore. Because waking up with an erection is actually an indicator of a calm nervous system. It's not that men are aroused during sleep, it's that they're calm. And so,
Interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah. So these are the questions that I'm asking men as we get further and further. And all of this is tied together because if you think about it, urination, defecation, and sex are all controlled by the pelvic floor muscles. If they're too tight, you can have urinary dribbling. You can have constipation because they're not opening up for a full bowel movement. And you can also have erections that are uncomfortable, testicular pain, things of this nature. So that's why the quality of the erection is actually an indicator of all of the other things as well. So often if a man has difficulty with maintaining an erection, he might also have urinary dribbling. So we would try methods to treat both.
Okay. That's absolutely wonderful. And of course, I'm going to do a little nutrition plug. If you're constipated, then it goes back to diet as well and nutrition. But like, I know you believe in this, Becca, and we really try to preach this. Excuse me. Okay, coughing on Zoom. Is that, it's everything in the body works together. There's no single system. Every single thing from thought process to cells to circulation to every organ, it all works together. So you have to have like this harmony of everything working together. And I love that you bring that all together with your therapies. All right, I'm going to drink water. You take over.
Okay, so speaking of nutrition, and I'm sure Joanne knows this, there's an herb called ashwagandha. And it is
Gesundheit. What?
I love
ashwagandha.
it. I love it. I take it every day.
I love ashwagandha.
Yeah.
And so what it's known to do is boost existing hormone levels and vitality. So here's what I see men doing. They feel their erections are not the same. So they run out and they go to GNC or whatever, and they buy what they think is a testosterone replacement, right? And
Yep,
they think,
that's
I'm
what
on
they
the
do.
road, man. Everything's
Yep.
going to be great.
Or energy supplements.
Yes,
Like, yeah, it's just
yes,
energy. I just need more
caffeine.
energy.
Yeah, caffeine. Yes.
Yep.
And so
5-hour energy.
Yeah, that's what they think. They really do. Becca's right on point.
yes.
They run out for something for testosterone or for energy, and they think
Yes.
that solves it all.
And you hear or see, depending on if you're watching ESPN, you'll see one of those commercials.
Of course.
All the
almost
time.
every
Yeah.
break.
Oh, help me in the bedroom.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
reignite my passion. Yeah. It's
Yes.
Yep.
And speaking of those advertisements, I'll tell you something interesting. So there's a condition called Peyronie's disease.
I've seen those ads
Okay.
too.
Okay. So what that is, it's a curvature in the penis and it's basically scar tissue, right? And so there is a great injection that helps. Physical therapy, we sometimes treat this also. We can do a little ultrasound where the scars are, but that
Scar tissue.
yeah,
That's right.
in
And
the
it
penis.
hardens and it keeps my father-in-law, the urologist, he talks about this all the time.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's dinner conversation.
Yes. And you know what's so interesting is that I have an 89-year-old best friend and she watches like Lifetime, right? Hallmark. And she comes to me and she says, I know that you treat this thing called Peyronie's. I'm seeing commercials for this all the time. Why are they showing this on a woman's network? And I said, because men are not going to address the problem. The women are going to watch the commercial. They're going to turn to the man and say, I've noticed a problem.
Yes.
And the
you have
man will
Peyronie.
then go to the doctor. That's how that works. But if you're talking about testosterone enhancement, yes, you want that on all of your sports channels. Men are going to buy that. They're going to love it. And they're going to think that it's helping when in truth, it's really not.
Yeah.
It just masks it.
Well, here's the thing about testosterone. If you're taking a product to increase your testosterone, the problem with this is no one has tested your baseline of testosterone. And furthermore, there's no dosage to the product, or the dosage is the same, one size fits all.
That's right.
So all these men with all different testosterone levels are now swallowing pills at the same dosage. So what's going to happen? All manner of things. Some of them not good.
Yep. Too much free floating testosterone, not a great idea.
No.
At least with females.
So what does that do?
It can make you full of rage,
Yeah.
angry.
Oh,
You,
well,
there's a
yeah, I-
reason that your hormones are not in balance. You always have to address the reason, not just take a blindsight your body with just hormones without knowing why did the hormones get dysfunctional in the first place. And like Becca was saying, there's so many reasons that get the male's attention, but it's not testosterone is usually not the reason. Sometimes it's abdominal weight, insulin sensitivity, too much stress, lack of activity, just stressing out in general, not giving time for the restroom. Becca, fill in where you can, but I know from my personal life, I see, it just a lot of times it's not the hormone.
Joanne,
it's
you
the
are my
diet and
girl.
lifestyle.
You got it. She's 1,000% correct here.
Yeah.
And what we see often is men popping or getting a prescription for Viagra and Cialis. The thing about erectile dysfunction is it can often underlie another health problem, like
Oh,
a
yeah.
heart condition.
Oh, yes.
And if you've not had your heart checked and you start taking Viagra, you call me and let me know what happens.
Yeah.
Because it's not a pretty picture.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. And that's what I tell my male customers. I said, think about it. You're experiencing something in your lower pelvic floor that's upsetting you. But if it's circulatory, if it's something more serious that developed over 30 years, where else do you need circulation so badly, right? Your heart and then your brain. Like there are some clients that they're having headaches, they're having their vision is really declining rapidly. Their heart, they're having arrhythmias or heart issues, and then they're having lack of libido and erectile dysfunction. It's your whole body that's screaming for nutrition and changes. You can't just mask it, like you can't mask a headache with an aspirin. You have to figure out why you're getting them. Okay, well, I can
it's funny-
just go
it's funny
on
you
and on
say-
about,
No,
yeah.
it's interesting you say about circulation. 20 years ago, I was going to my dentist and they said, "Do you have a cardiologist?"
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, "Yeah." And they said, "Why don't you go see him?"
Yeah.
And so I did. They tossed me right into the Longwood Heart Unit.
Yeah.
And I needed a stent. And
Yeah.
that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
At a
And
dentist's office.
But
Yeah,
our
see?
dentist was
Yeah.
the one who caught it.
Yeah. And Chinese medicine has been using oral health as a heart diagnosis for 5,000 years. 5,000 years. And so I love that story, but at the same time, we need to step it up a notch, because if your gums are really being destroyed, and if you're getting all these other issues, you have to get to the root. Stop covering it up with medicines. It really, all right, let's go back to pelvic floor. Becca, I'll get on my little rant about medications covering up symptoms.
No, and
So-
in keeping with that topic, we can talk about adrenal fatigue, which is very related to hormone production. So,
Oh, yes.
all right. So your adrenal glands, they sit on top of your kidneys and they produce cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So it's secreted in times of stress. So fight or flight. There's a tiger in the woods, you have to run. The problem with the adrenals is they only have so much they can do for you. So if you're living in a time of incredibly high stress for a protracted period of time, your adrenals are going to run low on the cortisol. The problem with this is cortisol is a building block of testosterone. So you've run out of cortisol, your body can't make the testosterone.
That's right. That's right. I sell a
Ooh.
product called Adrenalplex, Becca. I have to show it to you. It's my #1 seller and it's wonderful. It has DHEA, pregnenolone, tyrosine, all the things to build up the adrenal system, but not stimulate the nervous system. So it's the energy comes from within and helps those stress levels. So you still sleep, but you still have energy, and you get that body regulated like it's supposed to.
Right. And so
love
once you
that.
regulate the adrenals, your testosterone will be produced by your body once more.
All right. So, Becca, we're going to do a quick break, but can you just let my listeners, in case they just started listening in or now they have the pens ready, what the phone number is for the telehealth, because you're right, a lot of guys might not want to do this in person, and also the website address.
Yes. So I work for Connect Physical Therapy. The web address is connectpt.org. You can scroll under our services and you're looking for a wellness visit with me. Or you can call this phone number 609-584-4770.
All right, we will be right back with Becca Ironside, physical therapist specializing in pelvic floor. And today we're talking about you guys. So girls, go get your significant others so we can continue this conversation.
And if it's not a significant other, just find a guy. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Hi, this is Joanne from Nutrition World and Wellness Center. I am really excited to introduce new guests and topics to my show every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. here on WPSL, where my listeners can call in on any topic. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find it. We want to help you become the best version of yourself. We will have chiropractors, naturopaths, coaches, and of course, Dr. Ravi will be on every month as usual. I am looking forward to sharing my 30 years of experience with my listeners so we can enjoy this life journey together.
Visit Joanne's Nutrition World in the Crass Square, formerly known as the Arcade Building, located at US 1 and Orange Avenue, across from Fort Pierce City Hall. Open Monday through Friday from 10 to 4, Saturdays 10 to 3. Taking appointments for the Wellness Center online at joannesnutritionworld.com or call 772-464-3598.
Hey, it's Dr. Ravi at Tradition Family Chiropractic. We are dedicated to serving you and your family with integrity, compassion, and innovative care through the most advanced chiropractic care ever in chiropractic history, encouraging your health and your family's health to its maximum potential on a regular basis. Call us today at 772-345-0060 or schedule online at traditionhealth.com for your free consultation.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I really enjoy having you listen, and welcome to any newbies. Today's show, we have my guest, Becca Ironside. She is I got tongue-tied again, physical therapist that specializes in the pelvic floor. Whew, that's a little mouthful there. All right, and today's topic is male pelvic floor issues. And, you know, we know that some of you guys might not want to discuss what's happening, and that's okay too. So I just asked her during the break if she could give 3 tips that it's not one size fits all. And that's what I love about Becca. Everyone has an individual story, but she's just going to give 3 tips that just can start you with kind of getting to know your pelvic floor better, just really understanding what might be happening, maybe some therapies you can do at home. And again, she's a physical therapist, so this is really hard to do just through audio, but maybe Becca, you can 3 tips in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So for peeing, there's a lot of men who dribble urine, they have an interrupted stream, or they can't start peeing. And often that is a signal that the pelvic floor is just too tight. So the number one thing we would say is sit down when you pee. Sit down for 60 seconds, take some deep breaths. And what you might notice is you're going to pee a little bit and then more pee might come out. So this serves as a way to relax the bladder and empty it fully, which can prevent leakage. All right.
That's a great tip. And Becky, you mentioned that for the female too. I was thinking that people could get one of those, what do they call it, with the sand hourglass things? right? Wouldn't that be a great idea? Because it's kind of meditative. If you flip it
Yes.
over and just hold those
Oh,
little
I've
ones
se-
that
yeah,
come with,
sure.
they came with that game that you had like a time and you
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
flip the
I
hourglass.
get it. Yeah.
Because I was counting just to get used to it. But then you're like, you're counting. But if you just watch that hourglass with the sand, that can kind of calm your vagus nerve, calm your system, right?
Like sands in the hourglass.
Yeah.
So are the
All
days
right.
of our
So,
lives.
yeah, there we go. Oh, that was my mother's favorite show. Oh my
a great show.
God.
Thank you, NBC.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So second thing men can do, try to avoid constipation. What constipation is going to do is it's going to take up the stool that's in your pelvic area is going to take up too much space and it's going to press on other things. So if you're very constipated, it's going to cause some leakage, often urinary leakage, but it's going to prevent you from having rigid erections as well. So
Okay.
what you should
Great tip.
try
Okay.
to avoid constipation. And often that means sitting down, taking your time, relaxing, try not to strain. It's hard not to if
Yeah.
you've been doing that for so long,
Yep.
but try not to. And thirdly, any cardio activity is going to help. So think blood flow, heart, penis, right? It's all blood. So any cardio activity is great, even walking. I suggest walking and keeping your weight down. The less belly weight you have, the less is pushing through your pelvic floor, and it's just less strain on the muscles there.
Great tips. And of course, I had to interject 2 ideas. I love the squatty potty.
Yes.
They're great. So you try the squatty potty. It's like, I think it's $20. All the stores have them now. Super great to help your colon align properly so that way you can evacuate. And a bidet. Bidet. I mean, they have
Yes.
now, you can get 3 bidets for like, $60, or one for like 25. We've had them for years now. They're so easy to install. I say that meaning my husband installs them so easily. But they're great. They're great to not only save money on toilet paper, but just to make sure that you're fully evacuating, that you are, and sometimes you need a little help, a little prompting, for a bowel movement. So the bidet can help that as well. But yeah, so that's my little.
I love
Yeah.
those tips. And frankly, we Europeans are very weird about talking about bowel movements because if you go to Europe, everyone has a bidet. They've been
Yeah.
doing this for a really long time. It's we're funny about it.
I know we're funny about a lot of things that just really don't make sense. If we don't connect to our bodies,
Yeah.
how can we truly have the inner health? Like we have to be able to express all these things.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I would say about my mom. She raised us where we're like, did you poop today? I think that's why you're cranky.
Uh-huh.
And
That's fantastic.
and that's what I say to my kids
Wait a
still.
minute. What?
But I did, yes. So this is the thing. Think about it.
That's
Okay.
Tide?
Now, of course, I have an infant in my house, right? I have an infant in my house. So, and I was telling Shelby this. This never changes between the day you're born and the day you die. What do we always make sure with a baby? All right, with an infant. Did they eat? Did they sleep? Did they poop? Right? And we're still that same infant. We're just a little bigger. We have to make sure we're passing our bowels, we're consuming, right? And we're resting. This simple principle of human existence that we still overlook. We go 3 days without pooping and thinking, oh, no big deal. It's a big deal. There's a reason we're not evacuating toxic waste out of our body. We have to address it. We're not resting. Our body can't rejuvenate. So it's all critical. And so, yeah, so treat yourself like you would when you were an infant. You have to eat well and rest and pee and poop. And yeah, and we're talking about it on my
It's
show.
amazing.
And that's it.
We're going to do the NFL draft tonight, but the trainers and the physical therapists for NFL teams, especially when the players show up to camp, they get major constipated, and there are things on the training table, that various vegetables
Right.
that will help try and alleviate that, primarily because of the stress level of 90
Okay.
guys fighting for 30 jobs.
All
But-
right.
But yeah,
I believe it. I believe it.
happens.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that they're evolved and that they are putting these vegetables out. instead
Oh,
of
they
and
are.
and
instead of
talking
energy
about
bars.
it and
Yes. Are
talking
you
about it.
constipated?
Oh,
That's
yeah, well, as
incredible.
They have for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
that's very enlightening.
Yes, I wish I knew them because I tell them magnesium powder and MCT oil in their morning drink, and then they'd be fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, MCT oil is from coconut oil, and it's
Oh.
antifungal, anti-yeast, and it's basically does not touch insulin levels, so it can be used right before practice. But it basically helps to make sure that everything that's in your colon just comes right out. Yep, it's amazing.
And
And
you've got
magnesium-
that?
Yeah. Yes, we have
Yeah,
it,
she
and I
does.
use it every single morning. It's life changing. And magnesium powder, you drink a tea of that before you go to bed. It helps relax the muscles, relax the pelvic floor.
Mhm.
It draws moisture into the bowels, and it does promotes a really good night's sleep. So, and both things are very affordable. You use a tiny bit of each in your day, and it has amazing other health benefits. But the side effect, and the only side effect, is that you have better, more full bowel movements. So win, win, win.
Joanne,
So,
we've come a
yeah.
long way from castor oil.
Oh, I know, right? And
For
midwives still recommend castor oil. I'm like, oh no, Shelby, you're not using that stuff. But a castor oil pack, a nice warming pack with the castor oil on the outside, that feels incredible. When I had my C-section back many years ago, I did castor oil packs on top of that. Woo, that feels
Oh, that's great
amazing.
to know.
Yeah, we'll talk about castor oil packs. I did a whole show on it. That's how much I love them.
Whoa.
Yeah. All right, Becca. So you gave some 3 tips for males. Now, if they say to you, well, Becca, really, I swear to you, dribble wise, all that stuff not happening, but I do have erectile dysfunction, and that's really my only concern. That's the only thing I want to deal with. What would be some of the steps in that conversation?
Well, we would ask if they'd seen a urologist because we definitely want all medical screenings done first. I'm not a doctor. We don't prescribe anything. So we'd want to check on that. Make sure that, again, the heart was checked, a complete blood count. We want to make sure the person's baseline is healthy because that would be outside of our scope of practice. So once we've established that and the person comes to us and says, okay, so my erections changed, let's say 2 years ago, the number one thing we would ask is, what happened 2 years ago? Right?
Love
So
it.
something happened to their stress level. They might have lost a parent. They might have retired, which can be stressful for people. It's a huge life change.
Yep.
They might have trouble with their teenagers. It could be any.
I don't know what you're
Oh,
talking
wait a
about.
minute. I still have problems with my teenagers.
Yes.
And they're
Yeah.
50 years old.
Yeah,
know.
there you go.
I know. And so something happened to trigger a stress response in that person's life. And that's what we would go after. So we would try to find what the trigger was. And then we would try to look at the person's skeletal system, which that can be done via a computer screen. We're going to look at the way they breathe.
Oh, that's true.
I
Yep.
know you love this.
Okay.
We're going to look at that. We're going to look at if they have any scarring along the abdominal wall. So anytime you cut into the abdomen, you're altering the position of the pelvic floor. Sounds crazy, but I've
Yeah.
had people with pelvic pain from having their gallbladder removed,
Yeah.
right?
Appendix,
Yeah,
anything.
appendix is a
I
biggie.
say you put a knife into the belly, it doesn't matter how big, you're getting a scar tissue or an adhesion. It's 98%
Yep.
likely, no matter the size of the surgery.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Even if it's a scope?
And they say
Yes.
the only
Oh, the
solution,
scopes,
yeah, you're still cutting. It doesn't matter what
Yeah,
happens, a
yeah.
scar
I get
and
it.
adhesions come. But yeah, people think that, oh, no big deal. Well, it's a big deal.
Yes. In fact,
Yep.
speaking of scarring, so I treat a lot of men after they've had their prostates removed for cancer. And they do this now robotically. So it's arthroscopic, right? So they're going to have usually five incisions along their belly. And it is those incisions that really need to be worked upon so that that man can regain control of his pelvic floor. Now, with prostate cancer treatment, it could be radiation, it could be removal of the prostate. And some men, their prostate cancer is so slow growing that they're going to leave the prostate in there. And that's great.
Watch and wait.
Yes,
Yep.
watchful waiting. However, there are side effects to a lot of these treatments for prostate cancer, and those side effects are erectile dysfunction and urinary leakage.
Yep.
So what's really difficult for men is they're already faced with a cancer diagnosis. They fought the cancer, and now they're faced with erectile dysfunction and leakage. And that is an incredibly hard blow for these men. And we treat this a lot. And there's a lot of help to be had in physical therapy, in large part because of the communication aspect. Who else are these guys going to tell? They're grieving.
Yep.
And they're allowed to grieve, and they should grieve.
So what
Yep.
does chemo do to
Oh.
your body in that respect?
Oh boy,
Oh,
Joanne.
we could have a whole show on that question.
Well,
Greg.
I mean, you know,
But
that's-
you're right. So
yeah.
like my ex-father-in-law that is in heaven now, he went through all that with prostate cancer. They treated him with chemo and radiation,
Ugh, that's so
and
bad.
really his whole pelvic floor life, below the belly button life, I called it, just disintegrated. He didn't feel like a man in any respect anymore. So to answer your question, Greg, every person experiences chemo differently, but you're knocking out your whole system's ability to function as normal. So some bodies are strong enough to, deal with that and come back strong, but some are not. And then now all of a sudden you can't walk, even like if you don't deal with someone like Becca and get her help, then you literally are walking with your legs spread apart because you still feel pressure there. You feel like something's inflamed. Yeah, like
Absolutely.
she mentioned a golf ball. Like
Yeah.
he told me, Joanne, I feel like a cantaloupe's between my legs, and there's nothing there. There's
Yeah.
nothing physically to look at, but because it just it damaged his system so much, he felt so much inflammation
Yeah.
and probably scarring, probably adhesions, probably everything.
Mhm.
And he wasn't a healthy man though to start, so it hit him super hard. But that's worst case scenario. But some people do rebound from chemo, but a lot don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know you probably have seen a lot of, especially since the pandemic, and you know, you pile the weight on
Oh yes.
because
Yeah.
of all the junk.
Yes.
Any weight, especially abdominal weight,
Yep.
is going. Well, Becca, you take it over because I know you know all of this so well.
No, she's
Yeah.
correct. So your pelvic floor muscles are very small, and they're holding up all of your organs. So if you imagine the task of that, all the organs, your skull, your head, you're walking around and these tiny little muscles are holding everything up. You throw 30 pounds on top of that load, it's that much harder for you to maintain continence. It's that much harder to get a rigid erection. And it's that
Yeah.
much harder to void the bowel. There's just congestion everywhere.
Yep.
And so that's what we want to try to eliminate. I wanted to go back to what you were talking about of chemo and cancer. I read a study recently, and it was put out by Harvard Medical School about the relationship between grief and physical pain. So grief can encompass anything: the loss of a loved one, the loss of your job, the loss of something important to you. And so what they're finding is grief actually causes physical pain in the body. And
Yeah.
I find this such an interesting facet because a lot of people are developing pelvic pain. And it's possible that that is entirely linked to the grief of this pandemic and all of the losses that we have sustained universally. Are showing themselves via pain in the pelvis. And men can get pelvic pain. They can get penile pain, testicular pain,
Yeah.
rectal spasms, and burning. And we are seeing a plethora of it. I wish we would see more. I wish more men would seek help for themselves. That's my sincere hope.
Becca, that was so well said, and I agree. And I do believe in all my years that the thought process alone, your emotional well-being, is the first thing to address. When I do my coaching, I have them do mirror work for sometimes 21 days, and they kind of wish that I gave them a do and don't eat list instead, but that's not. I'm like, anyone can Google what to eat and what not to eat. I want to address why you're not loving and nourishing yourself from the inside. Let's figure that out, because if you walk around stressed, I don't care if you eat broccoli and Brussels sprouts all day, you won't get well if you're still your vagus nerve, your nervous system is overrun and you're just not chilling out. So really important. I do have a question I just remembered for one of my customers. Um, you're mentioning prostate cancer, the after that, but what about if they get a vasectomy? Is there issues after vasectomies? Okay, so the question comes from my brother. He had a vasectomy, and he's my brother. They have many, many children, and they have this, a beautiful marriage. And he's really felt different as a man after that vasectomy. Do you have a lot of clients with that issue?
I have some. It's called post vasectomy syndrome, and it does happen in some men. So there's scar tissue, right? Anytime you cut into tissue,
Or you get back to
scar,
scar
you
tissue.
get
Yep.
back to scar tissue. So there's scarring in the testicles themselves. So yes, there is treatment for that. Let me know later where
Okay.
he lives, and I will hook him up with a therapist.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. So basically, you're sounding very hopeful about male conditions in general. So if we do have the significant others listening or the male men themselves, so do you feel that most situations, I know I'm not trying to make it a blanket statement, but there is hope for these type of situations through lifestyle changes?
Oh, absolutely. There's hope.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And it's what you said about calming down the nervous system and looking at the thought process. Oftentimes, people aren't having these conversations, obviously, with their urologists. And that's not to criticize urologists. They simply don't have the time. And who else are you going to have this conversation with?
Right.
You need to find somebody to talk about it.
That is
Well, nothing
so
personal,
wonderful.
Joanne, but I don't think I've ever been to a urologist. Seriously,
Wait, really?
I don't think so.
Did you get your prostate checked?
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
a
and that-
urologist usually.
no,
Oh,
no,
your
no, that's
GP's
GP
doing
does
it.
it,
Your
yeah.
GP's doing it.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Okay.
great, Greg. That is really good. It's rare. I mean, I remember when I was going to school, they said the statistics for prostate cancer by this year would be 1 in 1. Yeah.
Mm.
And so, but a lot of them are what you said, just watchful waiting. So, but still, who wants to get that news? Even if you're told, oh, it's okay, we'll just watch it. It's in your psyche. It's in your
Yes,
mind. Every time you
yes.
pee, it's like, well, is it growing? Is it
Mhm.
okay? That could really devastate the human psyche.
Well, a
So
friend of mine.
I
he-
don't watchful
yeah.
waiting. Like, how about let's not bring it up unless we really need to address it. I don't
Well,
know.
you
It's like-
and what about the PSA tests? Because a friend of mine who just went through chemo and everything else had perfect PSA tests,
Yep.
yeah.
We see that.
and his prostate was huge.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
How does that happen?
Well, I call it inflammation. Becca, you go ahead.
So he does not have cancer, this friend?
Actually, he just rang the bell 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
Well, I'll tell you this, a man's prostate is going to grow throughout his lifespan. So it typically starts the size of a walnut and then it'll grow the size of an apricot. It's just aging. So the prostate's laying down more cells and it's in many men, it's just going to get enlarged. That doesn't mean there's cancer, but that's why these tests and staying on top of all of this is so important. The prostate specific antigen PSA, it's not a foolproof test, but it's important to get checked. It doesn't always reveal cancer, but it reveals changes in the prostate. It can go up, it can go down just based on what's happening in the body. So it's important to stay on top of that. And also the dreaded digital rectal exam, having someone stick their finger in and feel the prostate is important. It's just what has to be done.
Yeah. And so many people joke about it on movies,
Oh, I know.
It's like, and I kind of like that a little bit though, because it kind of takes the seriousness away. It's just go get it done, just go check it out. What are there other things that a male, so say someone right now is listening and saying, oh, like Greg said, wow, I feel lucky. I mean, I'm okay. Like I don't have the things that these guys are talking about on the show this morning, but are there first signs that where they can really take action right away, that where they'll notice that maybe libido or erection or dribbling, like are there first warning signs?
Yes. So
Okay.
let's say if you're under 50 and you suddenly stop getting morning erections, that would be a sign something's going on in the pelvis. If you're over 50, it's okay to not have morning erections. I don't want people beating themselves up over this. They're going to wane with time. That's just how things go.
Okay.
Another thing would be if you're having a big change in your urinary flow, you can't pee. it's suddenly harder to pee. You feel like you're pushing pee out. That shouldn't happen, right?
Okay.
So if you're seeing these patterns really take a change, you'd be concerned, and you should see a urologist first. And then thirdly, if you have a huge change in your bowel patterns or pain with bowel movements, rectal spasms. I'm seeing this all the time now, rectal spasms. And
Becca, what is a rectal spasm?
so your rectum is muscles, right?
Okay.
So the muscles, when they're tight in that region, they're going to start to close down. So they're involuntary waves of stress, basically.
Okay.
mean,
so
when my-
so you're not going to the bathroom, but as you're sitting normally, you'll feel like a tightening down there.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sometimes it's to the point you can't even sit
Oh,
sit.
okay.
because
Gotcha.
it's gonna bring on those
Seems to
spasms.
always revolve back to stress.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So I'm sorry I interrupted you, Becca. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. And if there's a huge change in your erectile quality, again, with age, it's not going to be the same. And that's okay, because you men don't have to worry about the cliff of menopause that we women have to endure. Your
Menopause. Whatever.
your hormones, they slowly decrease with time. Ours markedly drop. And the difference with that is huge. And I'll tell you this, I once worked in a nursing home, and a lot of the elderly women, they had zero interest in sex, but the men never stopped wanting it.
That's right. My dad used to roam those halls, boy. I'm like, what a Frenchman. Get back in your room. Yeah. Wow. It's so true, Becca. It's so true. I mean, it was crazy. The guys were literally would be like prowling the hallways.
Oh,
Okay.
certainly.
That is
Yeah.
such a good reference. But yeah, and I know like with menopause, a lot of like I was about 50 when I went through it, but some females are 43, and you don't, that's a whole nother conversation, which brings me to the announcement that I love Becca so much that I'm going to have her as a regular. We haven't figured out the dates yet, but if you're loving listening to Becca and her specialty, don't you worry. She's going to be back on the show with lots of other great topics. I think we have the same mindset, so it's going to work out super well. But Becca, can you tell my listeners one more time how they can do a telehealth visit with you and get in touch with you in case they would like to have a visit?
Sure thing. So you can log on to your computer at connectpt.org. You're going to look under our services, and you're looking for a wellness visit with me. Secondly, you can call this phone number, 609-584-4770.
Perfect. Well, Becca, thank you so much for being on the show. And again, you guys have to come visit me at Nutrition World in downtown Fort Pierce. Our wellness center is still offering our detox day special. It's 2 amazing hours of 1 hour is the massage, and then you can get to pick 2 other services. We have the infrared sauna, beautiful with chromotherapy built into the machine, the PEMF mat. When I was exhausted after all the delivery stuff, I went on that for 20 minutes and I literally felt like a new human. So everyone have a great week. Come and check us out. Bye. Bye, Becca. Have a great
Bye-bye.
week.
Thank
Bye.
You've been listening to Joanne Siegner, World of Nutrition. Boy, a lot of valuable information today, right here on WPSL Port St. Lucie. Talking the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world on TuneIn.
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Steve Kathan. A COVID vaccine for kids 6 months to 6 years old. Moderna calls it Kid Cove and wants the FDA to give it emergency use authorization. CBS's Dr. David Agus says if it's approved, 18 million